For today's math lesson, we are working on Topic 2, Lesson 4, and our learning tension is I can use a 10 frame to help solve addition facts with 5 and 10. You will find our lesson beginning on page 69 of our Envisions Topic 1 workbook. If you need to go get your math workbook in order to start our lesson today, go ahead and pause this video so you can be ready to go. If you're ready and on page 69 of your workbook, let's get started with our solve and share. Our solve and share says use the stamp tool to place some counters on the 10 frame. Write an addition equation to match the red and yellow counters. Tell how a 10 frame helps you add. Well, boys and girls, before we start doing all that, I want to start by saying Mrs. Collier has a stamp tool on her computer, but you guys do not. So I'm just going to have you use your pencil and you can just color in dots. So it says use the stamp tool to place some counters on the 10 frame. This is a 10 frame. If you look at the spots, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the bottom, and then there are 5 more on the top, just like a doubles. So 5 plus 5 is equal to 10. So there are 10 spots in this frame, and that is why it is called a 10 frame. So what we are going to do, Mrs. Collier will use the counters. I will fill in part of the 10 frame with some counters, and then we are going to write an addition equation for what the counters look like. Okay, so I will start. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And for you, you can just use your pencil and just draw circles. And if you want, you can fill them in or shade them. And then I'm going to get my different color counter and I'm going to put 1, 2, 3. So we used a stamp tool or a pencil to fill in part of our 10 frame. Now it wants us to write an addition equation to match our counters. So I am going to move it down a little bit. So down at the bottom, we can see where it wants us to write our addition equation. So boys and girls, if you want, you can just use what Mrs. Collier did, and we are going to count how many red counters did I put in my tens frame. How many red counters did I put? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my addition problem at the bottom, I am going to write the number 5. I already have my symbols filled in, so I have my plus sign. How many yellow counters did I put in my 10 frame? 1, 2, 3. So boys and girls, I need to find out what is 5 plus 3 equal. 5 plus 3. Well, why don't we count all of our counters together? So all of the red and all of the yellow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 counters total. Tens frame can help us add because we know that one row holds 5 frames. So if we see one row that is full, we know that there are 5 counters in the frame. So if both of the rows were full, and we know that one row is 5, we would know that 5 and 5 would make 10. So that is how a tens frame can help us add. Let's watch our animated video for the top of our page the top page in our workbook on page 70. We are going to see how to use a tens frame in the video.
You can use a 10 frame to show an addition fact with 5. How would you show 5 plus 3 equals... Start with 5. How can you show 5 in the 10 frame? Put 5 counters in the top row. Then add 3 more. Look at the 10 frame now. How many counters are in the top row?
Select your answer.
How many counters are just in this top row right here? We just talked about how many counters can fit in one row. How many do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There are 5 counters in the top row. How many counters are in the bottom row?
How many counters are in the bottom row? So down here. There are 1, 2, 3.
There are 3 counters in the bottom row. How many counters are there in all? There are 8 counters in the 10 frame. So 5 and 3 more are 8. How does the 10 frame help you see the addition fact 5 plus 3 equals 8? It breaks the sum up to show 5 and 3 more. How does making 5 help you use a 10 frame? Making 5 in the 10 frame makes it easier to see how many more are needed to make 10. It is easier to look for empty frames in one row than in 2 rows. The 10 frame shows another addition fact. You have 8. Make 10. 2 boxes are empty. Add 2. When you add 2, you make 10. How does the 10 frame help you see the 10 fact? It breaks the number up to show how many more make 10. 8 plus 2 more is 10. How does the 10 frame show 8 plus 2 equals 10? There are 8 red counters and 2 empty spaces, which is 10 altogether. So 8 plus 2 equals 10. Now you have learned how to show addition facts on a 10 frame.
So in our section of Convince Me on page 70 of our workbook, it says, how does a 10 frame help you add 5 and 4? So if you remember from our video and what we have worked on so far before, we know that our top row, one of these rows, can hold 5 counters. It has 5 frames and 5 spaces. So if I am already adding the number 5 plus something, I know that I can add 5 counters in the top, and then I just have to add however many more I'm adding. So in this problem, I'm adding 4, so I'm going to fill in 1, 2, 3, 4. So my tens frame helped me by knowing that I just needed to put my 5 in at the top because I know that my counter can hold 5 on top and 5 on bottom. And then after I have my 5, I know I just need to add 4 more. So my problem, like how it is at the top, is 5 plus 4 I need to write 5 plus 4 equals how many? So if I know I have 5 up here, I just have to add 4 more, so it would be 6, 7, 8, 9. So 5 plus 4 would be equal to 9. On our guided practice on the same page, so still on page 70, it wants us to look at the 10 frames, write an addition fact with 5, then write an addition fact for 10. So let's look at number 1. They completed number 1 for us, but let's see how they did it. So in number 1, we have 5 plus 2 equals 7. So if we look at our tens frame, we know that this top row up here holds 5. So we got 5 plus. We have 2 more on the bottom row. So I said 5 plus 2 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. For number 3, it's a little bit different. We have 7, so I know I have 7 counters, plus 3 equals 10. Well, this is a tens frame, so for it to equal 10, that would mean all of the spaces in the frame are full. So if I have 7 spaces that are filled with counters, so I have 7 plus, the 3 comes from how many more spaces I need to fill up before I have 10. So 7 counters plus 1, 2, 3 more counters in those spaces would equal 10. Let's look at number 2 together. In number 2, we have 5 plus blank equals blank. So let's look. We start with 5. We know that our top row of our tens frame is equal to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counters. We don't even have to count it because we know that if the row is full, that is 5. So 5 plus how many counters are in the bottom row? There is 1 counter in the bottom row, so we are going to write 1. What is 5 plus 1? 5 plus 1 is 6. We could figure this out by saying if I have 5 in the top row and I have to add 1 more, I could say 5, 6, because I know 6 comes after 5. Now I need to write an addition problem where it equals 10. So for example, if I took my yellow counters and I filled in the rest of these spaces, I had to use 1, 2, 3, 4 counters to get to 10 full sets in the frame. So if I were starting with 5, 6 red counters, and I have to add 1, 2, 3, 4 more counters, that would give me my full tens frame, which would be equal to 10. Let's try some more together. Now we are going to complete our independent practice on page 71 of our workbook. Now, independent practice, as usual, is what you do by yourself. But since this is a new topic, I think Mrs. Collier will do the first one with you, and then I will read you the rest of the problems like I always do. So, let's begin on number 3. Again, our directions say look at the tens frame, write an addition fact with 5, then write an addition fact for 10. So these are just like how our equations were set up in our guided practice. On number 3, we can see that our tens frame is full on the top row. So how many fill up one row in a tens frame? 5. So this is one row up here. If this is full at the top, that number will always be 5. So to find out how many we have down in the bottom, if I know I have 5, I can just keep counting. So up here is 5. This would be 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 counters total. So let's look at how our addition problem is started. all of these problems for 3, 4, and 5 all begin with 5 because all of my tens frames top row is full. Now let's look at the second row of our tens frame. I have 1, 2, 3 in the bottom. So for my addition problem, I'm going to write 5 plus 3. So 5 came from the top row of 5 counters, plus 3 came from my bottom row of counters. 5 plus 3 is equal to, we said it before, but in case you forgot, if I know I have 5 up here, when I get down here, I can just keep on counting. So I have 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 8 counters total. Now again, if you look at problems 3, 4, and 5, all of our tens equations are already filled in at the bottom. We can see that all of these addition problems must equal 10. So the way that we could fill this in is by looking at how many total frames are filled in my tens frame. So in this tens frame, I know that 5, 6, 7, 8 of the frames are full. 8 of these frames are full. I know that a tens frame is equal to 10 when it is full. 2 of the spots in the tens frame are empty. So if I have 8 total so far, I need to fill 1, 2 spots before I can be equal to 10. So for example, if I were to fill in these 2 dots in this frame, I would now have 5 and 5, which is equal to 10. So when you're writing your problem, you'll write the total number of counters that you started with, so 8, plus how many you need to add until you get to 10. And you will do the same thing for number 4 and 5. Number 4 says 5 plus blank equals blank. So you need to fill in your choices for 4 and 5, your answer choices. And if you get confused, you can look back on how we solved for number 3. Now would be a good time to pause the video so that you can complete numbers 4 and 5 of the workbook page. When you're finished, you can press play and it will begin on number 6. So again, if you want to pause the video now so that you can finish working on number 4 and number 5, please go ahead and do so because Mrs. Collier is about to start number 6. Number 6 says use 2 colors to draw counters in 10 frames. Match the addition equations, then write the missing numbers. So boys and girls, for this one, we don't all have counters at home, so you can either use colored pencils or you could use your pencil, and for your counters, you can draw circles like this and keep them kind of open looking, and then you can draw some more that would be colored in. And those are examples for what your counters could look like. So if you don't have colored pencils or you just want to use a pencil, some counters can just be an open circle with some space in the middle, and some can just be regularly closed. So I will show you an example on number 6. I'll get it started. I'm going to use my counters because I feel like it'd be a little bit easier to show. So use 2 colors to draw counters in 10 frames. And it wants us to match the equations. So this is telling me that I started with 8 counters. So I'm going to fill in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is where I got the number 8 from. But now I need to find out how many I am missing to get me to 10. Because to get to 10 would mean that all of my spaces in my tens frame are full. So that would mean that this spot and this spot are full. So what number am I missing here? 8 plus what number would give me 10? So if I have 8, these spaces would be 9, 10, because we have 5 on top and 5 on bottom. So my problem would look like 8 plus 2 equals 10. So 8 of these red counters plus 2 of the yellow counters give me 10 counters in all. Now you are going to do this for this part of number 6. You can use your pencil like I showed you earlier, or if you have colored pencils or crayons you'd like to use, you could do that also. It says 7 plus blank equals 10. So you can use what we did for number 6, the first part of number 6, as an example for how to solve this section of number 6. And if you need to pause the video, go ahead and do so because we are going to move on to number 7. The last page of our workbook, so page 72 for today's lesson, we are going to start on number 7. Number 7 says a team has 5 balls. The coach brings 3 more balls. How many balls does the team have now? You can use the 10 frame to help. So if we have 5 balls as a team, and the coach brings us 3 more, how many total do we have now? And you can use a tens frame in number 7 to help you solve. So remember, each row on a tens frame is equal to 5, and you could just use your pencil to fill in the spots. But we want to know, how many balls total does the team have now? Number 8 says Cammie reads 5 books. Sue reads 4 books. How many books did the girls read in all? Use the tens frame to help. So boys and girls, just like on number 7, how we were trying to figure out how many balls a team has, now we're figuring out how many books the girls have read in all. So we have 5 plus 4 books, and we can use our tens frame to add those together, and then we will write our answers in the blank. Number 9 says write a story with an addition fact for 10. Then write an equation for your story. So for number 9, Mrs. Collier will make an example, and you can use it to help you, but please make your own problem and don't copy what I do. I wrote a story with an addition fact for 10. My problem says Sal has 5 dogs. Hal has 5 dogs. How many dogs do they have in all? So if you were to take my problem that I wrote and say, okay, Sal has 5 dogs. Hal has 5 dogs. 5 plus 5. Just like on a tens frame, if I know there's 5 up top and 5 down bottom, that would give me 10. So my story problem has an addition fact, and it is equal to 10. So for your story, you would need to make a story that both of your numbers added together would equal 10. And for number 10, it says, which sums equal 10? Choose 2 that apply. If you remember, a sum is another way to say a total for addition problems. So we need to find 2 sums that are equal to the number 10. That means if you were to add these numbers together, would they equal 10? So 2 of these equations are going to equal to number 10. That's why it says choose 2 that apply. So when you answer on number 10, it is going to have you fill in 2 of these spaces. When you are all done, you are all done with your math assignment for today. If you need to pause or rewind any of the lesson today, please go ahead and do so. If not, then you are all done, and I will see you later.